All right. Hey, everyone. So I'm so glad that you guys are all joining us tonight. You guys, and also Thelma, sorry, I apologize. We have to me, a very special presenter tonight. We have Schweta Palande from our Developer Advocacy Group. And she's actually joining us from Mumbai, India, where there's still sunlight. And it's Friday, so happy Friday to Schweta. We were talking about. So Shweta's going to spend some time talking. So a couple months back, maybe about a half year ago, right? If you guys remember, we had Joe from my old team talk about DevNet and how we went through the process, and we're going to be doing a series of these as well. And Shweta's going to talk, about developer advocacy, what her role is, and just kind of what's going on in that world. So that was a horrible introduction. I apologize, Shweta, but I'm going to let you fix that right now. So I will hand it over to you, and the show is yours.
Thank you, Robert. Hi, everyone. Good evening to all. I'm Schweta, and I'm from the future because it's Friday right here in Mumbai, India. So, first of all, thank you for being here, and Robert and everyone for getting me here to present and talk about DevNet. We'll be talking about, I think we have a lot of time, 90 minutes. So, this is a great opportunity for me to talk about DevNet, what we do, what a developer advocacy team does, and also my journey into how I got into being a developer advocate. So I'm just 2 years old into Cisco now. I did my bachelor's and then immediately went for master's. And after master's, I graduated in 2017. So I don't have a really long runway of being in the industry. So everything I see, my experiences, are everything from a very fresh set of eyes and perspectives. And I really like to share all that with you over here. So um, I don't know if you guys have been to Cisco Live and been into the DevNet zone. When we pre-COVID times, when this used to be physical events and we had this dedicated DevNet zone and all Cisco Lives. In Cisco Live, we had different zones segregated as per technology, or one zone is just dedicated to doing workshops, then one zone is doing lightning talks or demos, and then there was one zone which was doing a start now only sessions. So start now sessions are very beginner level and cover topics from getting started with REST APIs, getting started with GitHub or Python, and so on. So in 2020, Cisco Live Barcelona, that was my first ever Cisco Live and first ever time entering into a DevNet zone and giving sessions in the Start Now zone on topics upon REST API and Python. It was a great experience, and I'll share ahead how I got into that experience. But there's a very common question which I keep getting in those Start Now zone was actually not common. I think that's the only question I keep getting when I'm in the Start Now zone is that how do I get started with programmability? Or how do I, get started with coding? Um, I know all the resources, but still I don't understand how to fit those in the puzzle of what I am doing right now. So, and in my honest opinion, there is no one size fits all for, to get started into programming. It has to be, of course, there are certain resources and methods which are quite common, and you should do that in the beginning. But then at the end, it's almost uh, molded into your own personality and how you want to take it further ahead and where you want to apply it. So my background actually was not from software engineering. My bachelor's was I did it in electronics and telecommunication. And when I was in my bachelor's degree, I was part of this core team. I was a core team member of a student research groups where we built a ground station from scratch to track the student satellites, which were made by universities all across the country. So my 4 years, I literally spent fabricating antennas, Yagi antennas, dipole antennas, like going into the workshop, cutting the antennas into pieces, characterizing them, and then mounting everything into a huge rotor on top of my college terrace, and then creating all the links, putting low noise amplifiers, getting the programming the microcontrollers and how to receive that data. So I was very deep into the telecommunications part of it, and I was really interested in pursuing things further ahead. So what the student satellite did was, it was a low Earth orbit satellite, and the purpose was to gather the TEC, the total electronic content from the ionosphere, and this data is quite helpful in predicting tsunamis or floods and things like that. So our ground station, which we were setting up, it was like a huge antenna system where we had to track that particular satellite whenever it passes through the horizon, and then get that data and then feed it back to the backend server. So and that's where my actual passion for telecommunications really spiked up. So then I decided to pursue my master's, and in the first semesters, I went about taking computer networking, broadband communications, voice over IP, and then I saw there are certain courses on cybersecurity or security in general, and then there were certain courses on engineering ethics. It's just random courses which just I kind of started jumping around and trying out different courses. But the funny thing is, I never did get to do any programming related course or dedicated to something in C++ or Python. I didn't do that because most of my coursework was around the wireless spectrum, 802.11, 2.4 and 5 gigahertz spectrum, IoT related stuff and all that. So when I started working, my first job, I started working in a startup. It was like a really small team of maybe 10 people, I guess. I was the 11th person over there. And my profile was of a software radio engineer, and I was really excited to, be doing more hands-on with antennas or wireless in general. But and I was working there over 3 years, and in that 3 years, I would say I wore different hats, 10 different hats on doing not only just doing what a software radio engineer does, but dipping into everything, right? From technical documentation to creating Google charts, Google presentations, and spending time in my Excel sheet and everything. So I think that's where actually my programming journey started. Was There was a time where we had a customer who had it was a hospital in Santa Barbara, huge hospital, and we were in charge of maintaining all the network infrastructure for that customer. And we were deploying Meraki all over the hospital. It was a huge site. So there was a lot of huge networks, thousands of devices and everything. And our task was we had to provide these weekly and monthly reports to the executives. And we had to make sure that we do a good job because we wanted to get that contract we wanted to renew that contract back again after the end of 5 years. So the reports were the only thing which the executives are going to see and then decide or judge whether, are we doing an exceptional job or how are we different from the other competitors out there. And so we thought that let's not just dump data into these reports, but actually give them insights of what is happening. And I'm talking about this in 2017 or 2018, where Meraki, sure, it had a lot of APIs back there as well. But I think maybe it had, 150 or 200 APIs, and right now we are at 300 or 400 APIs in the collection. So it was pretty new at that time, and I had no programming experience literally. So I was actually scrambling around the dashboard and clicking here and there and seeing how can we retrieve more and more value about it. Because most of my week I was spending hours and hours behind the Excel sheet, downloading the entire inventory and then filtering as per which switches went offline, which access points went offline, and then getting those data, the dumping into the presentations, creating pie charts around it. And it was really frustrating because it was a repetitive work every week, every month, and so many networks, so many organizations within that hospital. So I decided to try searching for something which can automate this. And that's where I came across first of all, Python. It's super easy. And I started writing a Python script which can periodically make calls to the wireless health APIs, collect the information for that particular timestamp, and then just uh, feed that into Elasticsearch and Kibana. So Elasticsearch is actually a data index management system, and Kibana is a data visualization dashboard. It's an open source tool. And what we did was we actually started getting amazing results because Kibana, we had the ability to watch in real time if any access pointer switch is going down or not, how many clients are currently on this network. So it was pretty amazing because then we upgraded from having pie charts in Google Sheets to having Kibana dashboards and graphs over there, which were very interactive. And I think that's what also set us a little ahead of the others, in which the reports didn't. First of all, the reports were not as boring as they were before, and the most important thing was my time was not going and just sitting in front of the computer and clicking on Excel sheets or Google presentation points. So that's where I actually started developing this knack for programming, and like automation is really cool because I can do so many things. And we actually started implementing AI or ML. The Kibana has those features for machine learning, which kind of you feed a data stream, historical data stream, and then it will find out if there is some anomalous behavior for a certain time or a certain day. So I was really enjoying all that. And I was at the same time, I was also trying to teach this or advocate this to my fellow colleagues who they were network engineers, and they had no programming experience. They were like on field, working with cables, switches, and routers. They were this hardcore traditional network engineers, and I was trying to uh, advocate this automation thing to them, and saying that, look, it's really easy, we can do it, it will save your time, because they were the ones who were actually on site and doing everything hands-on. So all that, and then after a while I was job hunting, and I came across this job profile with Cisco DevNet. I had no clue at that time what DevNet is or what even a developer advocate is. I just saw the job description, and the job title of developer advocate didn't make any sense. But then when I went through the responsibilities, I just realized that I kind of checked marked all the boxes. And so I said, why not? Just I'll just apply. So I did that, and I during my course of interviews with my superiors right now, I remember asking my then manager that I want to do something which, it's not really monotonous. I want variety. Like, I don't expect a new project every other day, but maybe every quarter, maybe, doing something interesting. And then he said, we will not disappoint you. You're going to have a ton of different projects to work upon. And to this date, he has been literally very accurate, because my everyday job profile is so much spread out that if anyone asks me what a developer or what your day-to-day job looks like, I won't be able to explain that in a single sentence, because we do so many lot of things. And I would say I've been in coming this October, I'll complete my second year anniversary being with Cisco. And I would say till this date, I'm still learning, and still learning what a developer advocacy role actually is. And everyone, in fact, in my team is still evolving to the idea of what we should do, how we should do it. So I'll just give a quick sneak peek into my first Cisco live session in Barcelona. Was that first of all, I was really happy to be a part of DevNet, and my initial months was just swapped into, getting to know. First of all, transition from a 10 people startup to a 10,000 people company is huge. I was there in San Jose headquarters that time, and it was I mean, everything was very overwhelming. We were attending sessions, events after events, because I think it was a second half of the fiscal year, and there were so many events going on and everything. And I remember Eric, my then manager, he asked me, oh, are you comfortable presenting a session on REST APIs and Python and for Clear? And I just said, yeah, why not? And I remember I didn't even bother to ask him what CLEAR stood for, because I was anyways catching up with a lot of acronyms and abbreviations at Cisco, which then I knew it was like Cisco Live something. But I didn't knew it was Cisco Live Europe, and we actually had to go to Europe to present the physical event at the physical event. So that came as a surprise. But then the other mistake I did was, I mean, it's not a mistake, but the funny thing, the other thing I didn't ask him was where the session is going to be and how many people are going to be there. I assumed it's going to be just a presentation, like, just how we are in a small group talking, presenting, there's a slide, and then I'm talking about it or explaining the concepts. And then Eric was like, well, just usually there are 150 or so people, but if you're lucky, you'll get up to 300 because Start Now sessions are really jam-packed. And I was like, 300 people, and I'm talking about REST APIs and Python, and what? So it was really challenging because I don't know if you understand. First of all, just coming from my previous office, we were literally sitting in a basement and we were 10 people, hardly 5 come to the office, no human interaction. 3 years have been just behind the computer coding, doing my work. And then suddenly into my second month into Cisco, I know that I have to go and present before a 200, 300 crowd and actually interact with them. It was really overwhelming, but I'm so glad that I did that. And of course, I couldn't back up at that point because you can't back up once you are committed, especially if you are 2 months old into your new job. But the session was extremely exciting. I'd like to show you some pictures from those sessions. So this is what this is a Start Now zone. As I talked, there are different zones within the DevNet zone, and then this is the Start Now zone. And here, I think I'm talking about getting started with Python, and there are people sitting here, and then there are tons of people standing at the back because there are no seats to sit. And then also there were my colleagues and my manager and everyone standing there because it was my first session, and they thought it'll just come for moral support. And it was so overwhelming. But I think the main reason was I saw the audience, and my first thought was these guys are like really clearly way more older than I am and clearly way more experienced than what I'm going to talk about. So I don't know if I'm even the right person to talk about this. But the main reason we literally had 300 or more than 300 people registered and actually show up for Start Now sessions on REST APIs and Python was they they all were at a very beginner level journey in programmability. And yeah, it's true that they had more 10 or 20 years of experience into the industry, but what they were really looking for and really, really interested was how should we get started with this programmability. So that was a great session. We ran that session 4 times through that week. So 4 times for Python, 3 times for REST APIs. It was a hit, and every time the session was full packed. So that explains the level of interest people have in learning these kind of concepts. And at the end of the session, I always used to get surrounded by this huge crowd, and everyone just had this one question: but how do we get started with programmability? I know there's resources, but how should I take the next step? What should I do next? I'm practicing these code solutions, but then how do I apply it over here? So these are I got to see on field in first hand that um, how much curiosity is there within people and how much they really want to adapt to this side. And so that's where I started kind of creating new content as a developer advocate for DevNet in terms of start now journeys, maybe any technologies, not just in general REST APIs or Python, but for example, I'm a developer advocate for Meraki, so also creating start now content for Meraki. That how should you get started with the dashboard API Meraki has to offer? How should you start using them in Postman tool? Postman is another web UI tool for interacting with the APIs. So I think this session I won't teach about REST APIs, but I'd really like to showcase some value of programmability and APIs as we have seen them um, in our market, and as we have seen the trends with our partners and customers. So again, just would like to show the second picture over here is about our Devnet Workshop. So that was the Start Now zone where I was presenting. This is the Devnet Workshop zone. We have very limited seats over here. I think over 10 or 20, because this is a hands-on workshop, and then each person is provided with a pod. Uh, he has his own pod, and then the pods are limited. So they actually go there, set up the system, and then do everything hands-on. But also a very interesting thing was because of the pandemic, and since everyone is getting virtual, our DevNet team, super talented engineering team, they have come up with Learning Labs 2.0 platform, which is essentially a platform where the IDE, the integrated development environment where you code, that is the Visual Studio Code is integrated inside the learning lab. So it's kind of like on the left hand side you have the learning lab, the content or the steps and the instructions for performing the lab, and on the right hand side there is an integrated terminal, integrated VS Code. So you don't have to set up anything on your computer, you don't have to install VS Code, you don't have to install any Python libraries or any packages, nothing. You just need that you need access to that workshop platform, and then you can just do everything right there without wasting any time on setting up or having some difficulties managing everything. So that if any of you had attended any workshops for Cisco Live US this year, I think that was the first time we got this platform out in the public. And then even for Impact, we did some workshops using that same platform, and it has a huge interest from all the community. People are really excited, and they are waiting when should we when do we get this platform so that we can show it to our customers and our partners, because it eliminates a lot of things which consume a lot of time. So I'll talk about that at the end when I talk about Devnet Create, because we have certain workshops over there as well. And then this was our Devnet Social Club party. This was the only first and the last party till now which I've attended. And rumor says that Devnet social parties are the best in Cisco Live, and everyone is really trying to get hold of that entrance bracelet. They just give you an entrance bracelet. Without that, you can't enter. So I know that because everyone, when I was at the booth duty, everyone was just coming in and asking if there are any left or not. So yeah, we had a lot of fun at the party, and hopefully we'll get to experience the same thing again in the future. All right. So coming back, I'd like to start with what Devnet is. So Devnet it's a Cisco's developer program, and it's a place for Cisco customers, partners, and individuals to go to if they are interested in writing applications or integrations or workflows along with Cisco platforms. So it's a one-stop shop for anyone who wants to learn about these platforms and also find the resources that they need. For example, the code, the documentation, the how-to articles, and most importantly, the different use cases. So Devnet has a very strong belief in hands-on learning, and hence the motto of Devnet is see it, learn it, code it. Uh, just Devnet mission, it's pretty simple. It's a three-part mission. First is to help Cisco employees, customers, and partners grow in the modern economy, and especially the API economy. The second is to make innovations easy, help the developers build solutions with Cisco platforms and APIs, and to make Devnet developers successful in their business and their careers. So before we go into what Devnet offers, let's take a quick look at why there is a need for DevNet. So customers have been asking us to, help them automate their infrastructure, help them connect and integrate the systems. And it's clear that we can do this through programmability and APIs. Because programmability and APIs, they are the engine that enable customers to transform their business. So how can we at Cisco help? To start with, we have this amazing Cisco product portfolio, and we cover everything from intent-based networking to cognitive collaboration to secure networking. So this new network is a large part of how we can help. At the base layer, we have our infrastructure. So the infrastructure Cisco provides across all our areas, for example, Collab, IoT, SD-WAN, DNA Center. These all now across the entire portfolio, and all these platforms, they expose APIs. So which means that you can start building solutions and integrations and workflows on top of these infrastructure. So as we just saw now, customers are asking us for new experiences. They want to have easy access to everything that the user wants. They want to build customized experiences using mobile devices, and they want access to the data. This is where the partners and DevNet come into picture. So we really come together to use the APIs to start to answer the questions of how do we build some of these user experiences, or how can we integrate workflows, or how can we integrate with other applications and produce custom dashboards. And this is what the APIs are enabling. This is what the DevNet resources are enabling, and what the DevNet communities help people in accomplishing through their IT teams. So the other question will be, how can people get their hands on these APIs? The answer is Devnet Dev Centers. So if you have been surfing through our main developer website, each of on the DevNet site, we have what we call as developer centers, or dev centers in short. And we have a dev center for every major Cisco technology. So the one on the screen is for the IoT Dev Center. It's a typical example of a DevNet Dev Center, and it comes complete with API documentation, sample code use cases, sandboxes, learning labs, and tutorials. So this particular diagram over here, we called it a layered cake approach. And if you just go inside and click on each of them, it will expand and then show you more details or more resources to access them. So every major technology has its own dev center. For example, if you want to go for Meraki, just go to developer.cisco.com/Meraki, and we'll go there. So this is the list of all the platforms for which we currently have a dev center. I think there is one for SASE right now as well. It was recently launched somewhere, but it's not mentioned here. But then if you see on the right-hand side, the DevNet program, it caters for two different kinds of developers. And the goal is to bring them together and help them work together. The first one, let's talk about infrastructure developers. So infrastructure developers, they are from the operations side, the ops side, and they are concerned with creating DevOps workflows, integrating tools on the back end, and automating networks. And they are writing a lot of code to do all these integrations. So they really care about automation, observability, and security. And they want to build applications and solutions that scale with consistency and repeatability. The next, we have app developers or application developers. They have been typically working in software for many years, and they have a strong tendency towards collaboration, IoT, or mobile. So the application developers are looking at cloud and multi-cloud. The application performance is, of course, the key, but also security is the second most field of interest for the app developers. And they both have different needs, and they'll find what they need when they go to this website or the dev centers. So I'd like to navigate quickly through the main Devnet site and what we have to offer. First of all, underneath, we we can see there's a get started with what Devnet has to offer. You will see 6 icons. We'll first of all, start with the start now icon over there. The start now, we created this space because a lot of people said that this sounds great, but where do I start? So as the name suggests, it's a first port of call for people who want to start learning about Cisco platforms and taking steps towards network automation. Within the start now, we'll find curated list of learning labs broken into bite-sized portions where you can go here and then dive in deeper with the sandbox and the certifications. Next, we have the full list of learning tracks, which covers all the Cisco technologies. The tracks are online and also self-paced, with each track comprising of different module labs. Then we have our online video courses. And then there's Sandbox. Sandbox, it's something where you can actually get hands-on with pretty much any Cisco platform. It's, for example, if you're working against DNS Center, then you don't have to have your own DNS Center lab to start developing. You can reserve one of these sandboxes and start sharing it with your team. So within that sandbox, there are hardware-based environments, there are virtual environments, also pure developmental environments like a dev box, and we cover labs across all the areas. It's definitely a huge resource within DevNet. So we covered Sandbox and Code Exchange. Code Exchange, again, it's an online, open source, and curated set of code repositories or solutions which are related to Cisco technology areas. The actual code is found in the associated GitHub organizations, but Code Exchange, it's kind of a place where the community can share the code that they have been working on, and you can upload the code, or you can also search for the results. For example, if you're looking for a code for a Meraki platform written in Python, which maybe creates some customized dashboards or integrates with ServiceNow. Just if you type the keywords over there, you'll find any use cases which customers or any other have already developed. And then automation, we also have Automation Exchange. Automation Exchange is again it's more of an integrated code samples, but then they are trying to solve a bigger picture, and it fits into an existing network solution, so that you can, if you're trying to automate a whole system or a chain of systems, you can search those kind of use cases in Automation Exchange. And then there is Ecosystem Exchange, which it's a growing catalog of over 1,000 business solutions and use cases which are created by the Cisco ecosystem. And it's a place where the partners can amplify and market their built solutions to the Cisco sellers and buyers. So for Cisco customers, it's a place to discover and consume those packaged use cases immediately. Like they don't have to go through their own coding process, or they don't have to build it from scratch. It's everything is packaged and provided right here for them. So we have the community resources on the left side and the learning and training on the right side, and then this partner transformation in the middle. So starting with community, we have the DevNet community. I forgot the number, but it's more than 500K or something strong DevNet membership, people who are sharing and learning the best practices, and they are actively engaged in our WebEx team spaces or in our community forums or even on Twitter, everywhere. So Code Exchange, Automation Exchange, Ecosystem Exchange, which I've already mentioned, all these are part of our community where the community is actively engaged. And then looking over to the learning sections, there are a number of ways in which DevNet members can learn. It's either self-paced or instructor-led, in person or even virtual. In person, not so now, but more of virtual right now. You could attend a DevNet Express event or even a workshop. So DevNet Express events, again, we are right now starting to migrate the traditional Devnet Express events and move that over the Learning Labs 2.0 platform, which I mentioned previously, which had an integrated VS Studio Code and terminal into the browser to make it a more seamless experience. So again, Devnet Express events for different technology tracks or even the automation boot camps, everything run by Cisco can be attended by the customers or the partners or even the internal Cisco employees if they want to start their learning journey. And then we've already covered the learning labs and the sandboxes. So now there are two areas which we'll dive a little deep into. The first one is Devnet Certifications and the second Devnet Specialization. So Devnet has this strong belief that a successful IT team of the future are going to be the one that really has a strong combination of infrastructure skills and software skills. So those skills may be found in one person or they may be found within a team, but we want to help build the necessary skills in the individuals and also in the teams together. So in response to our community, which says to us that we are working on automation skills and we want a direct path to learn those skills and a way to show that we have them, we introduced Devnet certifications. So in February 2020, last year, it was the first time where we launched the Devnet certifications. Cisco already has a lot of network engineering certifications like CCNA, specialist, CCNP, CCIE, and etc. But they are the qualifications that are respected around the world, and it's a hugely successful program. So, well, right now we introduced a new track called Devnet Certifications or can also be said as a software track. The Devnet certifications, they focus more on your software skills. And the goal is to enable the people to help build those skills, connect and build those combined teams. So as you can see, we have Devnet Associate, Devnet Specialist, Professional, and then probably an expert offering into the future. And more details about these certifications can be found out on our main website /certification. So to help people get there, we have introduced this new Cisco Learning courses with more courses in the works as well. And through the Cisco Platinum Learning Library, everything is available over there. And through Devnet, we have a couple of new tools to help you train for the certifications. There's a fundamentals training, which is a new online and self-study experience, which has like all-in-one coding environment with integrated labs, which is the new platform I just mentioned. So people also have a great success and have used it in a self-study tool to prepare for the associate level exams. Then we have study groups. Study groups is just as it sounds, there's a group, there's a mentor, and it will go on for a course of 8 weeks, and the mentor will cover each topic every week. And then there are some quiz questions and then group discussions to help the students catch up with the content and prepare for their examinations. So one of the requirements for the partners. Okay, so yeah, this was for the study groups. Study groups are largely internal. We launched the study groups last year, somewhere in October or so. And then right now it's being adapted widely within Cisco. Different regions, different theaters, all the SAs are actively volunteering to be a mentor for the study groups and run different cohorts within their teams and getting their teams certified together for Devnet Associate or any other certifications. So again, then the other one is Devnet Specialization. So a partner can be awarded a Devnet Specialization for a certain number of, if a certain number of individuals within his team or organizations has received a Devnet certification or at a professional or specialist level. So if that requirement is completed, we award the partner with a DevNet Specialization badge. And what is a DevNet Specialization? It's recognizing partners with demonstrated software capabilities and business practices. So and there are two levels in this. One is specialized and the other one is advanced. So if you're interested in knowing more about these, again, you can find this in our main website /partners webpage, and then how you can get started. So to get started on all this, here is where you go. Developer.cisco.com/start now to get the start now content, /certification to know more about certification, and /partners to know more about our DevNet specialization. All right. So I know I talked a lot about DevNet, but it's not, I didn't even cover everything. There's still a lot to talk about, especially the events section, which I'll circle back to at the end. But just a glimpse about right now on what APIs, programmability, and automation is, and why it's the future. So software needs to be understood. The industry, all the industries are right now being disrupted by software. It's what differentiates the offerings between different companies in the market. So the applications they have, the way they interact with the customers and their websites, there's a massive opportunity for us right now because it is a big disruptor. And it's and APIs and programmability or automation is a key to all these things. So just on a very high level overview of what an API is. It's like essentially an API will it's a way for your computer to talk to some kind of infrastructure at the back end and help them do things for you. And there are a lot of benefits of using APIs in your platforms, which I don't have to explicitly mention, but if you're interested in deep diving into these concepts, you'll find more learning tracks on our website. So one question we get from SEs is like, how can APIs help win the sales? So three things the APIs are very good at. First is differentiate. So they'll help you differentiate your offering compared to the competition. If you have a good set of APIs, they'll enable many different services for your customers or your partners. And if you're not an SE, but you're just a network engineer or in a team where you're not currently adopting programmability, this also applies to you. The second is remove blockers. So many times we hear that your platform is great, but it doesn't do X. So this is where APIs will help allow them to create that missing piece and bridge that gap rather than waiting for the next iteration of the product or adding a new feature. And the third is addressing the business challenges. So often a customer talks about the non-IT challenges. APIs will enable you to develop innovation by accessing infrastructure and extract information, which creates new ways around a problem. So it's essentially the more data you have, the more creative you can be in trying to combat a problem or trying to find a solution to it.
Hey, Schweta, can I just add one comment on that last slide? When we talk about like winning deals with APIs and especially differentiation, I don't know if there are any partner engineers on the call here, but just in my experience, I think partners that can, do programmability and do it well, can really differentiate themselves from other partners that can't or don't, and that really puts them above the crowd, so to speak. I've definitely seen that. That's a big point for partners, probably even more so than us.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's totally true. And I think especially with the Devnet specialization, there's a separate team in Devnet which takes care of this Devnet specialization, and they are solely focused in dealing with partners and getting them specialized. We have seen such a huge rise in numbers, and it's like more and more partners want to get their team Devnet specialized because they want more and more team members to get started with programmability or at least get to know that get par a certain basic level of programmability on coding, so that they can leverage that resources and try to keep up the pace with the industry. So also, what are some common deal hurdles over here? This is what the research which some of our team members did, and it's being presented over here, is that first one is we get to hear that there are not enough resources. So we often heard that there are not enough resources, so I can't purchase anything else. So even if you have a low number of resources, by automating your actions using API, you will use fewer resources, and it does help free a lot of time to help with the other new infrastructure. The other one is we get to hear is that I need unique business capabilities, and yes, you can have them. You don't have to wait for someone or within Cisco to invent something. You can achieve similar results by changing your product, by implementing your APIs. So this again circles back to the problem that you say when they say that your product is nice, but it doesn't have X. That X can be achieved by using these APIs and then creating a lot of creative use cases on top of your existing platform. And the other one is say that I like your product, but it's incompatible with my existing deployed systems. So APIs, it can be used as a common interface between two systems and enable them to talk with each other. So it's not limited to certain systems. Many of the APIs, one of the reasons APIs are so widely developed is that you can integrate them with any systems which is exposing them. So the incompatibility with the existing systems, that hurdle also vanishes when you automate your stuff or when you adapt to APIs. The other one was that they say that I like your product, but I don't know what we have. So you don't need to know what we already have. So using APIs, you can collect all your inventory. You can check how old it is, or do anything which you want with all that inventory. The other thing is they say that we are afraid of causing unexpected outages. So APIs allow you to automate any network changes without any human interaction. And you can program your laptop so that it interacts with your APIs with the network and do it for you. And that changes can be rolled back with the APIs too. So you don't have to worry about outages, and also you don't have to worry about those 4 a.m. maintenance windows where you have to just go and click a button and try to reboot or configure something. You can do all that with APIs. And also the most common is that say that the current staff is not trained. So for example, they'll say that we have Juniper boxes and you guys are Cisco, so it won't, a team is not trained to do that. So APIs, again, they will interact with an abstraction layer, and that will do everything for you. You don't have to be fully trained in that. You just have to know which API to apply and how to abstract that layer. And then again, it's a one-time thing, and then you are set for rest of the time. So what should you listen for? For example, the issue is people say that I can only purchase 50% of what I planned because I'm not staffed to deploy it fast enough. Or they say that the resolution to this would be you can do more with fewer resources. Even if you say that the engineers can't work on the next project because they're too busy supporting the last one, but if you implement different automation approaches, you will be able to deploy it more quicker. Or if you say that we are on a change freeze because we had another outage last week caused by the changes or by human error or something, programmability can actually help you automate the whole workflow in terms of how to make these network configuration changes. Also see that our developers, they are moving everything to the public cloud because it takes us too long setting up a new environments. So the solution over here is if you automate the workflows on how to do things, both network and software development, you will have the right set of resources in your company to automate everything on site without moving anything to the public cloud. And the last one says that we really like your product, but we can't do X, and we need to look at the other options as well. At this point, a partner can jump in and fill in that missing gap, because that's what partners do, is that they build on the existing Cisco platforms and create a lot of use cases which can help fit into the puzzle for other customers. So again, just quick 5 reasons to use APIs. It's easy. It makes a network easier to support. You can automate basically everything. Just this drives efficiency and consistency, reduces outages, and can do so more. You can create integrations between different systems, irrespective of what they are, as long as they have an API. You can create new things. You can innovate new things. For the last 25 years, I would say we haven't been able to do this, was accessing data apart from using the CLI. But now we can create new product extending the capabilities of Cisco platforms by developing your own solutions on top of these existing intelligent platforms. And the other one is transformation. You can transform your customer's business, and our partners will be able to transform the way their customers work as well. And APIs is like a small subset of the whole programmability thing. So again, the benefits over here is innovation and business agility. In the past, it took ages to implement something, but now it's more quicker and easier across all the network. We have an accelerated time to market. We want to make sure that the services built on top of the network can be optimized as soon as possible. Um, uh, then highly skilled architects and engineers focus on business. So sometimes these valuable resources are used appropriately. We can refocus them on doing things that actually matter and are critical to business development. Cost reductions, spend less and do more. And improved network availability due to reduced human error. So if you do this, you're bringing real business value that will reduce human error. And most of the network outages are due to human error. So programmability can definitely help you eliminate that part and thus create more efficiency in the system. So this was I know I blabbered a lot about APIs and automation here, but I won't go more further into this, because you get my point, right? Automation and programmability is good, and you should get started if you have not yet. So let me just give you a little quick insight onto our events, Devnet events, and in specific, I would like to talk about Devnet Create this year. So just get you to the main page for Create. So this year's theme is APIs, apps, and action. It's a global event. We are doing the follow the sun approach. So it will first air in Americas, then EMEA, and then APJC. It's going to be a 2-day event from October 19 till 21 as per different time zones. And we have 4 different tracks, all related with the theme of APIs, apps, and actions. So the registration is now open. Please go there and register. This page over here, you'll find more details about all the speakers and what's the agenda going to be. I won't talk more about it, but more about the agenda and the actual tracks. You can read it there yourself. But I'd like to mention one thing which I'm really excited about, is that I'm going to be hosting along with other 2 co-hosts for the APJC wave of the Create. And also I'll be recording a segment called Tech for Good. So Tech for Good, as it sounds, it's just like this means that is we are going to be highlighting projects from all over the world, all the 3 regions, where the developers have created something which uh, which solves a certain problem in the society. So just one example I would like to give is that there's a network consulting engineer in APJC who does programming or coding at the side just as a hobby, but when the COVID pandemic set in and the vaccination slots were going on, he created an application where he can alert the users when a vaccination slot is opened up nearby so that people can sign up and then go and get their vaccination. So this is something, a really good example of how you can also be creative and direct your programmability skills into doing something good. So I'm really excited for this segment. We haven't started recording yet, but I'm really excited for that because we will be covering some really interesting cases from all over the segments, and you can tune in uh, for each of the regions for this particular dates, and then see if you can take any value from that, or even if you're interested in contributing to such use cases, and you can always connect with those peeps back there. What is DevNet Create? I think I'm going to shut up now because I I talked a lot, but if we can keep this open for questions right now. If anyone of you are interested in asking anything or knowing anything about it, please feel free.
How well does it DevNet work with the older Cisco technology, like older routers and older switches and stuff?
Mm-hmm. So if you're like, if there are any specific models you would like to know, I'll have to go back and check if they expose certain APIs or what uh, dependencies they have. But in general, um, I know that there has been a lot of new feature development, meaning that there is always backward compatibility with the older models of routers and switches. So if there is any specific model or a thing you're interested in, just let me know and I can always go back and check.
Okay.
How how would this type of arrangement, I guess with the APIs, are these types of things looking to replace functionality that we previously had from things like SNMP, or are they more complementary?
I would say they're more complementary because SNMP is there. We still use it. It's not going anywhere. But along with SNMP, if you are, or you also want to pull out more data at the same time and then feed it into a whole system, APIs would do that. So I would say it's more of a complementary thing.
Yeah.
We had a prior speaker prior month on Cisco Meraki,
Mhm.
and the Meraki SNMP stuff is there's compared to most other devices, it's fairly minimal. Seems like the effort there within Meraki is that any of the stats you'd really be looking for off of SNMP are really now more focused to be received through the API environment.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So interestingly enough, next month, I'm previewing next month a little bit. We're going to be covering full stack observability, which is, I guess, I don't know. I don't want to call it next gen SNMP because it's so much more than that, right? It's bringing in APIs and other forms of data as well, right? Um, uh, I think next month will actually help answer a lot of that. But I would also say like SNMP just in general, just my opinion, is definitely like an older way of getting telemetry data, and it's not full functional, right? If you know what I mean, right? Versus some of the other tools that are out there today.
Yeah, I'll make a
How
comment.
about
Sorry.
go ahead.
SMP, I mean, you can't really do configuration with SNP, NP. So, I mean, you can do monitoring with SNMP, but if you try to do configuration, it's not going to, you don't have a lot of options. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I moved on to Ansible for that. the configuration options there seemed a lot easier to script, and the compatibility, hell, the only thing you really required was SSH.
Yeah. Also, coming up, it's not planned yet, but I'm talking to one of the architects on my team. He's really into programmability, also more on infrastructure as a service, infrastructure as code. Sorry, and he will probably be talking about like using Terraform along with GitHub and stuff like that for repositories. So look for that in the coming months too. I think that'll be an interesting comparison to something like what Ansible offers also, which I have guys on my team that do Ansible too.
So beyond like software networking or security services, right? Security access service edge. I mean, does Cisco have any use cases for like edge networks?
Edge computing.
Edge computing, yes.
Yeah, it does actually. I
Do you
think
have
there
any
is
use cases that you can share, or is that something that you guys are looking into?
Yeah, we so edge computing, it falls into the IoT section, and I know the BU is heavily focused with we have edge intelligence in IoT. It was launched I think in 2020. So yeah, use cases, for use cases you might want to check in automation or code exchange for use cases around edge intelligence, but yes, it is one of the top priorities for the BU, I would say. And then there's also a learning lab on how you can get started with configuring edge intelligence and integrating it with your systems. If that might be of interest here.
Yeah. I don't remember, last month when we did the poll and we asked for suggestions. I don't remember if IoT came up or not, but there is a solutions architect in the LA area that works for the IoT team. He's a very smart guy. We can probably get him on to talk more about not specifically programmability, which I'm sure he could, but also just IoT in general.
Mm-hmm. And
That's good.
also there is a dedicated sandbox I forgot to mention for edge intelligence. So you don't need your own account. You can all go into the sandbox and try your hands on with what it exposes, what it has. For the use cases, I know there are certain use cases along edge intelligence and sample MQTT scripts, probably some other use cases among how to pull out data and then push it to other services. You can find that. It's again, you can copy the link over here in chat here. It's developer.cisco.com/edge intelligence.
Thanks for sharing that.
Any other questions for the evening or for your morning?
So
If
Robert,
not,
within the folks you interact with, are there any examples from this space that either people in the different teams you're interacting with, or customers, or others that have done something that nobody else had done before?
I can't say like nobody else has done before, because it's actually getting much more common, right? The need for programmability in the network. I'll give you an example. I just had dinner with a customer. They are an ACI customer. Previously they were not an ACI customer. They're a software company, and previously they were just using a mishmash of Catalyst and various Nexus switches to build their data centers network. They have like 14 data centers across the globe, right? And they host these applications close to where the customer needs it. They're like their own cloud. Okay. So, and their customers have customers, right? So if you think about it, right, the customers need access on the back end to do certain transactions and whatnot, but then the customers need access on the front end. Okay. So every time they went to do a change, whatever it was, it always caused an outage, because you don't really like, one change affects one part of the network and it kind of cascades out, right? So that was happening over and over again, and they were not meeting their SLAs. So they started down the path of looking at what is a software solution that can help with this, with what we need to do, right? And at the time, honestly, like they were a gray market Cisco customer. Like we had a relationship with them, but they definitely prefer to buy gray market. But in talking with them, in spending time with them, and understanding what their real needs were, and then explaining what our solution was, in this case ACI, it was actually a really good fit for them, like a really good fit, right? ACI is, you can go into the interface, you can click, but it's really best to be consumed, right, by whatever it is. It could be Terraform or Ansible. I don't remember what tool they're using. I can't remember. However, their software developers have already kind of moved down the path of DevOps, and the network operations team was trying to catch up. So once they started going down the path of ACI, they actually had the ability to link better with the DevOps teams when they were making deployments. And as far as I understand, I actually had dinner with them 2 weeks ago. They were very happy. They've deployed about half of the data centers with ACI. They were able to keep up with the rest of the DevOps teams, as they release code and whatnot. So in that case, that's actually really worked out well for this customer. And there's other customers, right? A lot of customers. That's one I'm very intimate with, because I did the first whiteboard for them in ACI, and obviously ACI is a product that my team handles. But we have quite a few customers that are looking at programmability, not just across ACI, but also like just VXLAN with EVPN, right? For customers that want a fabric network, but don't necessarily want to go down the ACI path. So because like Nexus opens up, a whole API that you can program to directly or go through something like DCNM. So there's a couple options there, but that one is something I'm pretty familiar with. Does that help?
And
Carol?
I can,
Sorry, Schweta, go ahead.
yeah, I mean, I can add some really basic and simple ones as well. For example, we've seen customers who want to have really nice customized dashboards, but then they say that I have 10 different products and 10 different dashboards, and I'm really fed up of, viewing all these 10 different screens. It's chaos. And so that's where API can come into action, is that these 10 different products, high probability that almost all 10 of them will have APIs exposed, and you can create your own custom single dashboard which pulls out critical information from all the 10 different things and make you see everything at one place. So this is actually, I think GVE DevNet has some of the use cases which actually solves that. There's one integration where there's a Meraki and ServiceNow integration, where they just directly take issues from Meraki and then feed it into ServiceNow. Or if there are any alerts coming from the Meraki dashboard, they directly feed it into a WebEx or Slack bot for getting alerts, and then keeping it real time and checking the status. So these are some of the basics which customers really like to work themselves, like put the developers or engineers to, because it's quite simple. The step-by-step instruction is already out there, and you can just follow it and create something of this your own for your own team.
Yeah, and actually next month, if we do get to do the full stack observability topic, you will see an example of that type of integration that Schweta was just talking about. So bringing in multiple tools into a single pane, so to speak.
That sounds like a good option.
I have a question. What if you're using white boxes on your projects? Will that integrate with your Devnet platform? Or?
A white box for?
Yeah,
I didn't get it.
using white boxes for like a project or something. Can you integrate that with all your Cisco DevNet platform, or is that something that's not compatible with Cisco?
But which DevNet platform are you
Like
mentioning?
it's like open source, equipment from different manufacturers. Can you
Yeah,
get
yeah.
to-
I think again it depends. Boils down to what exactly you're integrating. There might be different specifics, so we'll have to look into APIs and the licensing and how it works.
Yeah. So are you talking about like a white box switch?
Okay.
something like
Yeah.
that, like a server, like a large server. So typically, but not always true nowadays, those white box switches will use some type of Broadcom ASIC, and Broadcom has their own set of APIs. So the tool set, the skills that you learn, like from something like DevNet, is definitely applicable, right, to something like that. Cisco also, we are now entering into that type of market as well. We had a very sizable amount of requests that we sell our ASICs, right? So we're selling ASICs now to specific service providers, and those will have their own set of APIs too. So I think it really depends on what platform that you're talking about, and each platform will have their own set of APIs. And if I'm incorrect on that, Schweta, definitely correct me, but that's typically my understanding, right? But again, the tools that you learn should be applicable. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you can call Devnet a platform, or just kind of a branding that takes into account a lot of different, like skill sets and whatnot, right?
Yeah, the later one, I would exactly call it, one stop for everything combined. Because it's not a product or it's not a feature, it's more of a accumulation of everything, learning content, sandboxes, everything together, which a developer needs to start his journey with integrating with Cisco software.
Good questions.
What do you say to folks who are kind of like on the edge about networking? Because I've run into certain environments where the threshold is like, well, I can kind of do it copy and paste or do it kind of manually, and it's just not worth the effort of automating. What do you say to folks like those and say, why should they learn how to automate?
Yeah, I think it again, boils down to individual preference. If that individual, I would say that you have to look at the bigger picture. If you think that you spend just half hour, 30 minutes every day in copy pasting, and that is more easier, but then you have to work out that you will be spending 30 minutes for the next 5 years or so doing the same thing again and again. So can you spend that 30 minutes instead for a month in learning this new skill and implementing that? Because that new skill will not only just solve your copy paste problem, but it will also reach out, it will also translate into some other areas where you can be, find innovative solutions to other things what you're already doing manually as well. So yeah, I'd say it's also on a very personal preference level. Some people are not that comfortable into diving deep into programmability. It's a little intimidated by that. But then again, you just have to think about the bigger picture and the return of investment, ROI on that.
David, maybe another way to look at it when you're talking to these folks is they took the time at some point to learn, CLI networking, right? This is really an evolution along that same path, right? And if they don't want to be dinosaurs like me, they probably want to take an opportunity to learn some of those skills. Now, if they have like 4 switches in their entire environment, from a practical standpoint, it may not make a whole lot of sense. But from just a building a skill set standpoint, they may not be at that job or that company forever, right? They may want to move on. I think it's really good to build that skill set.
Yeah, it's more of like keeping up with the industry, because technology, especially in the last 10 years, has changed so much. The whole I would say the business has evolved drastically, and it will keep on changing drastically, especially with, and Cisco has always been traditionally it's a networking hardware company, but if you just see around yourself, it's started to adopt software and cloud and everything so much in the last 5 years or so that we know that where this all is going. So yeah, if you want to keep up with the industry, don't feel like you don't want to be left out, or you really want to keep up with the trends, I would say it's a good skill to have.
What is Cisco's stance on netconfig support for across all its platforms, or is it just going to be limited to a certain set of select platforms?
I think the support is still going on very well. In fact, recently I I know one of my colleagues, he introduced a migration script for Yang 1.1 suite. So Yang support is it's pretty solid. I don't see, I mean, at least in my personal opinion, I don't see anything otherwise.
Yeah, I'm looking at the product set. I mean, like, at least on the Nexus, the 9K side, it's well supported, and I'm fairly
Yeah.
certain it's supported on Catalyst 9K also. So in the newer platforms, we're definitely going to be adopting those new models, right? 100%. I mean, looking backwards though, I don't, like if you have older Catalyst, older Nexus, I don't think that's going to be the case, right?
Do you guys have any examples in your DevNet platform of full end-to-end service provisioning using netconf Yang?
Yes, I'm almost confident we have, but you have to go and search through the code exchange and automation exchange repos. I mean, you can just try adding the keywords like Yang and nestconf, and I'm pretty sure there is.
Okay, thank you.
Any last questions? We're almost right at time. Good job. All right. Okay. So, Schweta, thank you so much. This was great. This was really, really great. Just great hearing your story, how you got started. You're an inspiration to me. I've been doing traditional networking for a very long time, and hopefully inspiration to a lot of these guys too. So, great story. Thank you for sharing. And as I mentioned, for next month, we are trying to get a full stack observability topic for you all. And I'll read what the description is going to be, if I can find it here. Give me one sec. Okay, so the idea behind full stack observability is that it's a real-time observability across the modern technology stack, right? Application, software-defined compute, storage, services, network, and more. So it provides enterprises with in-depth visibility into the behavior, performance, and health of their applications that support the infrastructure via high fidelity, right? So things like telemetry metrics, events, logs, traces, all those things are kind of pulled in, okay? So that's going to be next month, I hope. I think we're going to be able to do it. And you'll get to see, some integrations that like Schweta was talking about, right? Like pulling everything into a single interface, and how do these things talk to each other using APIs and stuff like that. So you get to see some some examples of that. So that's next month. And then down the road, we'll have another programmability topic talking more about infrastructure as code and how that's done and some examples. So I'm going to try to get someone from my team to do that. This is like a real passion of his, so I'm going to try to get him on for that. So with that, I'll stop the recording.